All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Again, so moved.
Okay, it's moved. All in favor of approving the minutes as they appear in our packets, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I abstain. I was not here for the meeting.
Okay, so Artie abstains. The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a transfer item. And I believe the first item is the tax collector, and that's to transfer $27,000 to replenish the overtime account due to 2 staff vacancies since the beginning of the fiscal year. Lisa, would you like to expound on that?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We have extra money in our current salary account because of these 2 vacancies. And we also have money in our temporary account, which we're not using right now, but we've been without a senior cashier and without our full-time cashier since the summer. We're still trying to recruit. It's just been a very busy time with computer upgrades and so forth. And I've had people working basically overtime to try to keep the office afloat. So that's why we're before you now. I didn't want to wait until the end of the fiscal year to come to you when I know I have the issue now.
Okay. Are there any questions?
No,
question.
Ed, do we need to move the item?
Yes, thank you. No, would you move the item, Ed? And
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of approving the transfer as presented in our packet, $27,100, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries and the transfer item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. The next item is the transfer of $40,000 from salaries to architectural landscaping for additional legal services and additional consulting services related to the regulations rewrite. Mr. Kleppen.
Good evening. Thank you for getting me on at short notice on your agenda. I appreciate it. So we've been working with a consultant over the last 18 months on a comprehensive rewrite of the zoning regulations. It's a pretty large and hefty process. We've had a couple challenges along the way. One of those, the firm is from outside the area. So we, in hindsight, I wish we had captured that from the beginning and probably added an additional line item and some more funds to allocate for the secondary legal review. But before we released the draft to the public, we decided it probably would be a good idea to have a second set of eyes go through it. There's been a lot of changes in Connecticut statute over the last year or so that really impact some of the work we're doing. So we want to get that done now. We have residual funds in our full-time salaries account because we had several people leave last year and it took a little while to backfill those positions. So there was just extra funds there. And I do have 1 vacant position, and I would put this as a higher priority item right now than bringing that additional staff person on, because there's also complications with training 4 people at once, which would have been a kind of a logistical hurdle. So we felt we really wanted to get this task done as opposed to going seeking funds through a different route. So that's kind of where I'm here tonight.
Okay, so you're fairly confident this is all you're going to need for those purposes?
I truly hope so. I hope I don't have to come back. That is the plan.
Okay,
Steve,
because
just
yeah.
one minor thing I'm trying to just track if I can. Page 6 says it's a $50,000 transfer. Your backup says $40,000.
Yeah, I heard it when that was read. Yeah, the actual request was 50. Initially, we were thinking 40, but that's why we bumped it up to 50 just in case. So that would be the request.
Yeah, so the table in the agenda is correct at 50. The narrative on page 8 of the PDF agenda is incorrect. Is that right, Steve?
Right, yeah, I got adjusted a little later, so I apologize you didn't get the most up-to-date version.
That's fine. Just wanted to track. Thank you, Tom.
So Steve, in light of that, I'm struck by by a line in the fourth paragraph of your memorandum that says, I do not believe that the entire sum will be spent for either service, but want to allow additional funds for contingency purposes. And that was when the amount was 40,000. How do you square that?
So yeah, so the logic behind that doesn't change from 40 to 50,000. To your initial point, Mr. Camacho, my goal would hopefully not to have to come back and request additional funds. So that's why I figure an extra 10,000, I might as well ask for it now. I have the funds in that account. We think that will give us more than enough and give us a little cushion as well.
Okay. And if it's unspent, obviously, then it falls into the fund balance in any event, right?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any other question? All right. All in favor?
We need to move the item again.
Yes,
Ed?
thank you. I keep forgetting to move the item. Thank you, Ed, for reminding me and for moving the item.
My one purpose in this Board of Estimate and Tax.
Is there any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the transfer of $50,000 from salaries to the architectural/landscaping account, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the motion carries and the transfer is approved. Thank you, Mr. Clevin.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, too. As far as I could tell, those are the only two action items on the agenda. We do have something here from Oak Hills. There is no mention in the memorandum about the restaurant, and I know that we discussed that last time around. But is there any? Is there someone here from Oak Hills? If not, it's, yeah.
Alan's here.
Oh yes, yes. There you are. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. For you.
Great. Would you care to give us a brief summary, including the update on the restaurant?
Sure. Just a brief summary. After 4 months, we find ourselves doing quite well compared to budget, $157,000 ahead on a net income point of view after 4 months. So, the revenue rounds are up by $140,000, $17,000 lower in our expenses. So, pretty good start for the first 4 months. 2 or 3 things on our agenda. We're currently in strong negotiations with Don Rostonado from Dry Dock about the upcoming season and whether we go with him or what the situation is. I've had a couple of meetings with him. We have another call tomorrow. We put a couple of lines in the sand, I think, here. One being that the actual when is the restaurant open? Because the frustrating thing to us this last year was we never knew when the restaurant was open or closed, and we would just open and close it willy-nilly. So we basically said we need to open from April till October, 6 days a week, lunch and dinner, and in the afternoon. And if you can't do that, then we can't continue this arrangement. We also spoke about having a breakfast, continental breakfast available during this time period, because people really want to have some coffee and stuff like that. And the third thing we look at is also basically to have an inexpensive golfers menu there available all times on the menu, so it can cater to everybody that comes in there. And these are 3 things that he has to do. Obviously, the biggest thing here is agreeing to open the restaurant, have it open during that time. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care. People have to know that the place is open. So we have another meeting with him, Joe and myself, tomorrow, and we'll let you know how that goes, basically.
What's the issue with the back rent? Has that been resolved?
We have received partial payments so far. We received the last payment for the last fiscal year. We've received the numbers for the first quarter this year, and of course, checks in the mail situation. Obviously, we will not proceed any further until we get full payment for what is owed. But I believe that's coming very soon, from what I hear. So that's where we're at as far as that's concerned. Just a couple of other quick things. We're now looking to hire a general manager for the position. We did have, as you know, Don was doing that, which was like, the chicken watching the hen, or the fox watching the hen house, in my opinion. So we are going out, so we'll be starting a search for a GM to run I believe it's going to be in the region of a little more than we were paying Don to get the right candidate. Still a part-time position without benefits, but I think this will really help us having someone there, and would be within our budget as well. And the third thing, we're also looking now from the pricing perspective, because we'll be doing the budgets, from pricing for next calendar year. And what the authority is looking at is obviously inflation is going up, everything is going up. However, we think it's important to hold firm on increases for Norwalk residents. So when we put any increases in, which we probably need to do maybe on a $1 to $2 situation, will skew them more hopefully to the non-residents rather than the residents, is what we're looking at from a philosophic point of view. We'll take any questions that we may have.
Are there any questions? Nope. Okay. When you said that you're not going to, you won't be proceeding further without the back rent being paid up, what does proceeding further mean?
Don't know. I have to check with Joe to see what he says, basically. But I mean, I'm prepared to, under the terms of the lease agreement, it's a 2 month notice with cause and a 3 month notice without cause. We have the 2 month notice, with cause, because he hasn't paid us any rent yet. So, plus he also sent him a document on October the 8th, which he didn't read for a month, and then finally got back to us, 2 weeks ago. So we'll see what happens at our next meeting, I think.
No other questions? All right. Thank you. I appreciate the information, the update.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Is there anything from either Henry or Tom regarding the state of affairs, or anything to add to this meeting?
Are we doing an update from Lisa or not?
Is Lisa on? Yes. Yes. Hi, Lisa.
I am still here.
How are you? We got your memo.
Yes.
You want to just give us an update?
Sure. We're right where we need to be in terms of collections. We're at 55.24% through the end of November. We're just bringing to your attention the fact that that current levy has been significantly reduced due to court stipulated judgments for taxpayers who have appealed their assessments. And you'll note that that levy, the corrected levy, the change in the levy is significantly down. So we're just bringing that to your attention just so that you're aware of it. We are normally already in our second installment billing period. However, I think you know that we had a software upgrade last month. Actually, it was in October. In our current tax assessment and collection software, that upgrade was not without its issues. It caused us to basically have trouble even closing our month out for October and then again for November. On account of that, and on account of some issues with the data that our assessor gets from the Department of Motor Vehicles, we have not yet sent our files to the printers. There's still a chance we might be able to get caught up this week. That's what we're kind of hoping for, but we're relying on the vendor to make some changes so that I can run those exports. That's the bad news. The good news is on other fronts, we're moving forward with what's going to be our software conversion in February to an entirely new vendor. My division has been basically meeting with them once or twice a week on our data conversion on their programs. That is going very well. And the collection agency that the Common Council approved for us to use for those motor vehicle accounts that we put in suspense every year, that mailing will probably go out within the next week to 10 days. So we do anticipate seeing some activity, some collection activity from that. But the upgrade has been very, very challenging. But our IT department and our division and the assessors division and also the CFO have been having basically weekly meetings with the software provider trying to iron these things out, but we did want to bring it to your attention.
Thanks, Lisa. Let me give a little context if I could regarding the ratios when Lisa quotes them. Lisa and Al calculate the dollars, but the amount to be collected keeps moving based on the adjustments during the year, based on negotiations or settlements or court judgments. When Tom and his deputy Agnes looks at it from a budget point of view, there's one number that's in our budget. And we just look at how much have we collected compared to budget. So I don't know, it took me about 2 years to figure out that discrepancy, but we understand it, we check it. So Lisa checks her numbers regularly. Tom and Agnes check from a budget point of view, as they do with all the other items on a budget versus actual basis. Let me talk about the software upgrade. Munis is the software we use for our ERP system. Someone once described ERP systems as the central nervous system for an organization. So that's what's used for accounting and purchasing and tax and every area of the city. It's the life, blood, and guts. We've been with Munis for at least 15 years. As you can imagine, changing an ERP system is a very heavy lift, which most people try to avoid. We were on a certain version of Munis, which was not going to be supported after December 31st. So led by Joyce Liu, the head of IT, starting, I think it was last February, we've been in discussions and we handled the migration to this more current version, and it went live in the beginning of October. So it affected many departments, but it affected the tax collector and assessor most. The reason being, we are the last town or city or village in Connecticut that uses Munis's tax package module. There's another package out there called QDS, which had been recommended to us for a number of years. And we had planned to move off of Munis tax to QDS by September of this year. Because of delays, none of which were our fault, but because of vendors, we could not make that implementation happen in September. So the tax collector and assessor have to use the upgrade of Munis for 6 months. The problem is Munis knows we're the only ones in Connecticut that use their module, and they know that we're migrating off of it in 6 months. So when they have limited resources for customer support, the tax module for us is almost the last in the priority pecking order. So our goal, so we're now 2 months into this migration. I have contacted senior executives of Munis and the corporate parent Tyler Technology. We have lists to manage the open items. Lisa and Al and Bill Ford and Paul, his deputy, have been doing yeoman work, sometimes just trying to come up with ideas on how to make the software work. And I hate to say that it's random, but sometimes we come up with solutions that gets it done. And we're not looking for root causes or pure, pure perfection. We're just trying to get the job done. And and Munis swears to us, this is a very high priority. They're working with us. So our goal right now is to get the computer systems and our data to the point where Lisa can run her important processes, printouts, hand it off to her printer, and get those tax bills out on time in the next 3 weeks before we hit the end of the year. It's literally day by day, we're watching what happens, what's working, and how do we get it done. In addition to that, because we have taxes on motor vehicles, We need downloads from the Connecticut State Database. And there have been problems with that database. So lots of stuff going on. We have a lot of resources and people focusing on it. And I hope within a week or two, we'll have even more better news. But just to give you a little bit of flavor of what's going on and why.
Thank you for that.
Welcome.
Are there any questions? No questions? Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss?
I would just let you know, Tom and his deputy Agnes have done a really good job prepping for the budget season. When we now have a full complement of people, so during the summer, they were able to get the data and the databases and organize the information and organize the computer systems. We had packages that went out to every department. I believe it was early November, Tom?
I would say late October for the operating and early to mid-November for capital.
A week later with capital.
Yeah.
So packages went out. Our definition of pro forma, at least on the operating side, is we reconciled the head count at the end of last year's budget season. So we know the numbers, we know who's on payroll, and we know the vacancies. Unless a new position was created or a position was eliminated, we take all of those people who are on payroll or who have vacancies, and we inflate them for the 2.35% salary increase for this year, for this coming year, which is contractual. And then there are numerous people who get step increases. So when we prepare a package that goes out to each department, the pro forma number for salaries reconciles to the head counts. Okay. And as I said, unless there's a new position, we should be in sync. And that was a great deal of, caused a great deal of the problems in the past. In addition, we looked at every line item. And Tom and Agnes look at history. A year ago, the forecast for the end of 2022, the current year's budget, and then based on historical reference, combined with what they spent last year, we come up with a number that's a target. The mayor gave us a 3.5% target that should not be exceeded by any department. We explained to the departments, they may have individual line items that are going up higher, but they should find savings in other line items, so their total budget doesn't go up by 3.5%. Having said that, sometimes it does because of reasons. Tom, Agnes, and I are now in the middle. We just started today, I think, with individual meetings with every single department, where we sent them out those packages. They came back and input their requests. And now we sit with them, and usually we look at what's different from the pro forma. If you come in at our pro forma, we have nothing to talk about. If there's an increase, we want to know and understand. That's on the expense side. Also, we look at the revenue. So we're going through that process. When we finish, we will sit down with the mayor, give him our reactions to this whole dialogue. And then in early February, the mayor and I guess, come out with our recommended operating budget. On the capital side, it's a little bit more telescoped. Each department puts a list in priority order of the capital items they want. It's a 5-year view, and we compile them, review it with them, with the meetings with them, and then it goes to planning and zoning that gets a shot at it. Then it comes back to the mayor. So I come out with a recommendation, planning and zoning comes out with a recommendation. Then the mayor comes out with a recommendation. And as you know, on the capital side, you guys put the ceiling and the council is allowed to shift the individual items. On operating, it's the opposite. The council sets the cap and we work with you. You have all your hearings and we look at shuffling the numbers to get to the same number. So you know the process. So my point is, we're well in the process, but we are far ahead of where we've been in prior years. The numbers are solid. They've been reviewed. We now have 3 people that put a set of eyeballs on all the numbers. And we're able to have more efficient discussions where we could focus just on the differences between the pro forma and the requested, so that we can present data to all of the decision-making bodies accurately and on time. So knock on wood, no jinxes, but so far so good on the budget side.
Is the 3.5 pro forma higher or lower than it was last year? I have a vague recollection that it was slightly lower last year.
Yeah, this is a special that Tom and I love to talk about. I think in the end, we had an increase of a little bit over 4% last year. What in our discussions, and it was really good, I have to thank the mayor for sitting with us early in the process to give us guidance. But the goal is, let's say we get all the departments at 3.5%. And I'm talking city side, I'm not going to talk about the Board of Ed. We also have things that in my mind are what I would call less controllable, which means we can't control. For example, health insurance, pension contribution, OPEB contribution, and debt service. And I'm estimating that those numbers are going up 7 to 13%. Okay. Debt service is going up because we keep increasing our borrowings, and I don't have to tell you what's going on with interest rates, but we can calculate it to the penny. But the point is, those are increases that we have to afford. So the discussion I've had with the mayor is, let's assume everybody came in at 3.5%. If we have items that are over 3.5%, I have volunteered without a gun to my head to take the rainy day fund and draw that down to moderate the tax increase to our taxpayers. We're very worried about our current economic situation. We have stagflation, we have inflation that has come down a bit, but still is significant. We had 2 quarters of recession. This last quarter was good, but economists that I see expect 2 quarters of negative growth next year, but we're not going to have ARPA or COVID money to bail us out. We're worried about taxpayers being asked to work fewer hours, possibly losing jobs. We know there are companies that have announced layoffs, such as Stanley Black & Decker, Semaphore, the genomics companies, People's Bank with the merger with M&T. So even when we zoom in on Connecticut, we don't know how it's going to shake out for us in Norwalk. We hope our residents are insulated. So we hope for the best, but we plan for the worst. So our plan is, if we keep our spending at a reasonable number, we have some non-controllable that we can't handle, and then we can play with our drawdown from rainy day funds so that the ultimate tax impact to our taxpayers is moderated a little bit. So that's our plan starting out. We've communicated that to all the department heads and chiefs, as well as we've had several meetings with the Board of Ed. Everyone said, why don't you people talk to each other along the way? We've had 3 or 4 meetings already where they talk about how they're viewing this year's budget. I talked about these outlines and guidelines as mentioned and as sort of indicated from the mayor. So at least we are having the communications. So hopefully this might be a little bit of a smoother process this year.
Thank you for that. That was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there anything else?
I just, do we have a motion? We don't have a motion to adjourn yet, but I want to extend wishes. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and have happy holidays.
Likewise.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Yeah, same to all of you as well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for that.
So
All right.
motion on that note, motion to adjourn.
Yeah,
All in favor?
for next month, don't forget,
What's that?
for next month, don't forget the meeting will be on the second Monday, January 9th. We're off
Right.
on the, we're
Right,
off on
we're-
the first Monday,
we're off.
January 2nd. So
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, I believe the motion carried unanimously, so have a good night and a good holiday season.
You too all.
Thanks, everyone.
Likewise.
See you in a month.